Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Sunday morning Sunday school class. I'm glad that you've tuned in this morning. I've pre-recorded this message during a window when I uh, felt at my prime during the day, taking lots of different kinds of medications and observing different things from different doctors, and still waiting on all the different uh, potentialities for improvement from the infusion that I took on Thursday. Hope you're doing well. Uh, Terry and I are staying inside, and we were getting out very little anyway, and to really become quarantined now. No contact with family or friends. Uh, Communicated with Henry and Linda Crow to stay away from the areas of the church that I visited. Um, on Sunday. That's the only place that I've been out apart from to the doctors this week. I don't know if I was contagious, but I did start feeling symptoms for the coronavirus early Monday morning. So uh, Danny was with me Sunday morning. We didn't have any other guests or visitors come by the church, but the church is, especially the senior adult Sunday school classroom, is off limits right now, and um, those germs probably long dead and gone. But just trying to be precautious, and I've gotten a confirmation from Linda that she's aware of the situation. She's going to spray the place down, disinfect. Um, Danny and I have worked a little bit on coordinating just several ways that we could do this, but hopefully this will only be maybe a couple of Sundays, and we can be back to our routine. It's our intention to try to do everything that we can to involve uh, safely involve visitation of other members or guests to come drop in on us with social distancing. Also, I'm praying about and in researching, looking into how we might broadcast and do a drive-up church. There's a technology for that where we could broadcast over your automobile FM radio frequency. You could just pull up, keep your windows rolled up. We wouldn't have to have a public address system or a loudspeaker system. Just speak in, pardon me, just speak into the receiver, and it would broadcast to your car or truck for about 1,000 feet. So we could also, people in the neighborhood, if they wanted to tune in, but it's used in drive-ins and drive-ups and drive-bys, many different ways. It's an inexpensive technology, and so I'm looking into that. I think we can do that. Also, uh, we're kind of using a hodgepodge or a piecemeal of different kinds of cameras and recorders, and having to use a headset microphone for this recording. It's a little bit different kind of. I'm recording this through my computer and not through the camera. If you have a computer or a smartphone or a tablet, you can make videos. It's very easy for you to do it. Just it's you've got a camera lens there, and it'll take a video and just save it. If it's a small video or brief, you can email it to various people, whoever you wish. It's not hard to do. Uh, if there's someone that you want to see, they might be able to do that. Someone that a family member that you miss being in touch with, you might ask them to send you a video. If you don't have other FaceTime or social media avenues, or you might send them a video greeting. It's a little more elaborate than just calling them on the phone or sending them a note by a card or a letter. But it's good to see you this morning. Although I can't see you, I don't know if I'm much to look at right now, but I appreciate you tuning in. I'm going to broadcast this at the 10 o'clock a.m. appointment on Sunday morning. So if you're joining us, please respond. I'm going to be monitoring it, and I may be able to chime in a little bit on any of your comments or input during this broadcast that I'm not usually able to, since I'm usually broadcasting live. If I get into a coughing spell or have any problems during this lesson, I can pause it and pick it up later. The scene that you see on my desktop is a picture that I made back in 2007. It is a shot of sunrise on the Sea of Galilee, and that is not a tourist boat per se that you see there. That is actually a fishing boat in the Sea of Galilee. We're going to find in Luke chapter 5 that Luke calls it the Lake of Genocide. This neck of the woods in this area of the world changed hands over the centuries and over the years, and the Greeks, Persians, Babylonians, the Romans didn't put that in order. But anyway, all the conquerors usually renamed cities and renamed landmarks such as lakes. And sometimes it's just stuck. We've mentioned that Luke was probably a Gentile, and so he calls this, it is not a sea. In Hebrew, the Hebrew word is yam, Y-A-M. And they called any kind of large body of water larger than a river. They called a gathering or a body of water, they called it a yam. So it came out, sea, could be lake. We would think of this as a lake. It is a very small body of water. It's not as large as the Sea of Galilee. Again, the Sea of Galilee probably would just be technically characterized as a large lake. In tracing the Bain and Abernathy lineage in my family tree back to my roots, we go to Scotland, that there they call every kind of body or gathering or channel of water like this a loch. That's where we get our word lake from. As a matter of fact, the Bains lived near Inverness, and that's just a few miles, about 25 or 30 miles from Loch Ness, Lake Ness. Lots of lochs throughout, all around Scotland. That's the most famous one I know, the only one perhaps I could name. It's a beautiful sunrise, and yes, when I'm traveling abroad, I don't have as much time spotting sunrises. I don't see many of them these days. I treasure that sleep between 5 a.m. and 6:30 or 7, so I generally miss sunrises as of late in my later years. And sunsets are beautiful too, but I thought this was a great shot. I shot this from my motel window. Got some good video of it too. Let me bring up our PowerPoint presentation. We're still suspended in our services. My own experience with this has convinced me that we're taking a prudent course of action. I wear a mask when I'm near people that, even I've been wearing a mask this week. When Terry and I are in the vehicle together on the way to the doctor or the hospital or whatever, I wear a mask. She wears a mask. We have gloves. She we disinfect light switches, doorknobs, handle on the refrigerator, and cabinets in the kitchen. We just go out for the necessities to get gasoline. I told Terry, you don't have to sanitize your hand as soon as you touch the gas pump. Of course, I do that too. She reminds me in the same way of various things. I have no idea how I might have contracted the coronavirus. It must be very easy to catch, and it must be easily communicated. In my recollection, I can't think of anyone that I have been around or near that is sick or I have learned since has contracted the virus. I just simply, and I haven't been touching people. So I touched something. Something I bought at the store had already been touched by somebody else. Just something as simple as that. And I wasn't careful to wipe things down. The thing is that trying to sanitize your hand always is the best way. You don't know what you have touched, and so instead of trying to sanitize everything that you're going to touch or have touched, sanitize your hands. But um, somehow I contracted this, and it is not pleasant. I really felt honestly that if I ever contracted this, and of course I don't know where I'm at in the process, but I don't know if I'm in just at the beginning or the middle. I began suffering the symptoms Monday, and this is Friday. This is Friday that I'm recording this. So I don't know how far along I am, and I don't feel as badly right now. I'm not having as many symptoms as I was. My greatest symptom has been fatigue and ache and headaches, the terrible headaches. I haven't run a fever since I think probably Wednesday morning. When I woke up, it appeared that my fever had broken, and I don't think Terry is always aiming that thermometer gun at me. I haven't run a temperature or a fever since Tuesday night, and it never was more than 102. But I felt very badly. As a matter of fact, it also affected my heart. That was the first sign. I was experiencing chest pain. That's what woke me up Monday morning. I'm not telling you all that to say this is, I have friends and family members, and I'm aware and have prayed with and prayed for a number of people who've had far more severe um, symptoms than I have experienced. Just from what they have told me. So I really, honestly felt that if I contracted this, if it was severe, that there's a great chance that I might not survive it. But it doesn't appear that it is that dire, and I think I'm going to be all right. It is not affecting me as profoundly as I know that it has others. You could, if I infected you, or if you became infected by the very same strain that I'm suffering from, your symptoms might be far worse. It might be far more difficult. I would not, uh, I miss gathering, and I'm sorry that we're not able to have church on Sunday and be together. But as easily as this is passed from one person to the next, and as difficult and as it can be, uh, the safest route is to stay away from people as much as you can. There's the debate about, as I said, I wear a mask, wash and cleanse my hands, stay away from people, and yet still I contracted it. So even with being very careful, this has been something that I wish that I could have continued to avoid. But it appears uh, that now that I'm in or riding that river, that it appears I have I've had good care. Terry actually started me taking, I think, several days last week, taking zinc, uh, doses of vitamin C, vitamin D. These are things that are highly recommended, and so I was already kind of juiced up and jacked up on the recommended supplements. But my doctor, when he discovered my dilemma, began and arranged the Regeneron infusion for me, and I took that yesterday. It's about a 5-hour ordeal. It only took about an hour for the actual infusion, but there's a lot of things to have to be done to you and for you in preparation, and then they observe you for a while. So I didn't feel any effects from the infusion. I haven't felt any particular effects today, but I trust that it's doing its thing. It's working. Let's go on. This has confirmed for me, as I said, I would it would make me feel much worse if I knew that just simply being around me or in the same building that I'm in might endanger you. So let's do this for a little while longer. As I said, we're looking for other avenues to have worship and church, and I don't know what the future will hold or what our services will look like, but God is testing us. So let's pass the test. Let's see, how does he want us to respond? I don't think he wants us to become angry or to get discouraged or to despair. I don't think he wants us to lose heart or lose hope. I don't think he wants us to uh, lose ground. So we're being tested. Let's pass the test. All right, we're in lockdown. Okay, let me go on a little bit further here. We're studying the Gospel of Luke, the the beloved physician, as Paul calls him. We're going to be looking at Luke chapter 5 today for just a few minutes. And this is the 9th lesson in the Gospel of Luke. Today is January the 31st. And as I said, if you want to chime in, if I am still around and out from underneath the covers this Sunday morning, and I may be able to interact with you any way that you wish if you're on Facebook. So thank you for joining us on Facebook this morning. Let me move me a little bit farther out of the way here, and Luke's Gospel chapter 5. And as I said, I'm kind of following the quarterly design or path. The method in the author's madness is not plain, but if you're studying your quarterly, you looked this week at Luke chapter 5. One day, Jesus was standing by the Lake of Gennesaret. The people were crowding around him and listening to the word of God. It's important to understand that what Luke just said. Jesus was not just giving them Jesus speak. He was just not making profound Jesus statements. He was not uttering unique Jesus of Nazareth principles or teachings, though all of that would be perfectly fine with me, or perhaps with you, or should be even with his Father. But Luke says that he was sharing the Word of God, the Scriptures. As we saw last week in the 4th chapter, that when the devil came to tempt Jesus, that Jesus quoted the Scripture to him all 3 times. Jesus said, "As it is written." And he didn't argue with him. He didn't debate with him. He didn't fuss with him. He just said, well, this is what the Bible says. Everything that came out of the mouth of Jesus was not a never heard before utterance. Brand new. As a matter of fact, Jesus chided Nicodemus on the night that Nicodemus came to speak with him. He says, "Nicodemus, you act like you've never heard of being born again. Aren't you a leader in Israel?" The rebirth has always been essential. You have to be regenerated before anything about God can get into our life. Before you look at it, we won't even consider it. We have no interest in it. God has to do a miraculous change in our life. So, here Jesus was sharing the Word of God. He saw at the water's edge two boats left there by the fishermen who were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little from the shore. Then he sat down and taught the people from the boat. Now, the other gospel writers, when they tell this story, Luke is almost always more detailed and descriptive. But Matthew actually tells us that it was because of the press of the crowd. They were so close, and it was such a closeness, such a throng of people, that he needed just a little bit of distance from them so that he could communicate to them. I'm just maybe spiritualizing just a circumstance of the story, but sometimes a little distance gives us a little perspective, and sometimes the Lord Himself needs to get a little bit away from us to be able to speak to us. Sometimes we think He needs to be closer and closer, or if it would be better if we could put our hands on Him, or our arms around Him, if we could embrace Him. But He says, let me get a little breathing room here. Let me get out in this boat, because I need you to kind of take it all in. Let's look at the long view. Let's back up a little bit. Let's get a little perspective. I don't know if that's in here, but I'm thinking, yeah, it gives him a better approach. Then he says, sit down, and he taught the people from the boat. I was thinking this week of another part of the Jesus story, where Jesus is going to be entering into Jerusalem. We call it the Triumphal Entry, Triumphant Entry, either. And Jesus told two of his disciples, he said, go to this particular place, and there's a donkey there. I want you to bring that donkey back to me. We're going to use that. And the two disciples went, and it just sounds like that they were just going up there and putting a bridle on him. And it was probably someone that they had stayed with, someone who had hosted them, or someone they were acquainted with. I don't know. I guess I'm just assuming that. And the owner came out and said, hey, what are you doing? I said, we're taking this donkey. And he said, why? And they said, well, the Lord has need of him. Why are you taking this donkey? Jesus told me to. Jesus told us to come here. We're just doing what Jesus told us to do, man. Okay. I was thinking of the first miracle that Jesus ever did there in John's Gospel, chapter 2, was the turning the water into wine at the marriage of Cana of Galilee. And Jesus' mother comes to him during the wedding and says, well, they're out of refreshments. Jesus said, what do you want me to do? That's not my job. What am I going to do with you? I think it was just a wonderful personal repartee. Some people thought maybe Jesus was being rude to his mother, but I think they had a wonderful relationship. He said, well, you're going to get me killed. It's not my time to die. I'm just getting started. You're going to make me do something that's dangerous. She understood completely. She knew him. He was her son. That little exchange, I think it's so wonderful. I read it over and over again. But just after that, just after those few words, those very kind of words in the way that I see them, and then Mary turns around to the people who were serving at the wedding and she says, whatever he tells you to do, do it. Whatever he tells you to do, you do it. Well, Jesus used it. He sat down and taught the people from the boat. He used their boat. Can Jesus use your boat, your car, your money, your house, your health? It's it doesn't say he asked this time. He just saw the boats there and crawled into one. He had to kind of wade out into the water. And there were probably a few people that waded out into the water too. They probably didn't uh, create a complete barrier between him and the folks, but probably the younger people maybe up to their armpits in the water, seeing how close they could get. Who knows? But he just used what was around and what was available. And I want to say, Lord, my nets, my boat, my business, my family, if it, whatever you need, whatever you want, whatever you tell me to do, I just want to do it. And so he used their boat. I wasn't really knocked out by a lot of the photos or artist rendition of this that I saw. I do think he was probably sitting down. I got this one. It did appeal to me, I guess more than, but I never did find one that I said, well, I love that. Uh, but look at that boat that he's in. A Galilean, a Sea of Galilee fishing boat. You can see another boat in the background behind him. There's a sail. If you go to Capernaum, if you ever get a chance to go to Capernaum, right on the Sea of Galilee, there's a museum. There's Terry and I, and we're at the arch there at a museum that's right beside the Sea of Galilee. And we were there in 2008. And there is a museum there where they have they discovered and preserved an ancient Galilean fishing boat. It is, they've determined, as old as 2,000 years, and it was submerged in the mud, and it was preserved by the mud. It's the Galilean Center, and we went there right after we had been in a boat ourselves on a tour of the sea, and there it is. It is supported by a frame or a bracket, and so what you're seeing is the wood, the hull, the shell of what's left of that Galilean fishing boat, and it's kind of held together at 1,000 different places by this skeleton that has embraced it. This can't touch it or get close to it, but it's been sealed, and that may or may not be the boat. It may have nothing to do with the actual time of Jesus, and Jesus may have never seen this boat, but this is a Galilean fishing boat. That's the kind of thing that Jesus stepped into and then taught from. I stood there and I looked at this thing. When they discovered it, now this is a mock-up of what it looked like. Now this painting here behind on the wall. They used a very important technology. So some tubes and tubing and filler tubes and air tubes. And when they discovered that in the mud, you couldn't just go prise that up with a shovel or pull it up with a chain or drag it out with a rope. They encased it in this foam, and that is a foam much like styrofoam, and it came out as a liquid and filled every crack and crevice, and then it hardened underwater so that they could then insert this wood underneath it in these beams, and they could lift it to the surface. This is just how the front edge looked. That's the whole thing right there, and you can see they were using a derrick or a crane to lift it, and the styrofoam or the foam helped it to float to the top, and that's how they got it up right there. It's quite a feat. This was done only about 20 years ago, 20 or 22 years ago. It's an amazing discovery, tremendous archaeological discovery. Now, the boats that we floated in, the boats that we traveled in, were larger and really resemble that kind of boat very, very little. These are more for tourists. And so this is on the Sea of Galilee, and it's a beautiful, wonderful day. And they flew for us the American flag, and also the Israeli flag also flew. But kind of like Captain Ahab there. But it's got a big deck on there, and it's just a wonderful experience. This is the motel that we stayed in right back there. So we could see the Sea of Galilee right out our window. Pardon me. Now, let me minimize that right now. I've got a video right here I want to show you for just a minute. I think I've got the audio muted on that. Yeah, there we go. This is some video that I took of the Sea of Galilee. And you can always just see, there's the Golan Heights right there. And this is one of the most militarily strategic places along the ridge there. It kind of looks down. You can see all of Israel from up the top of the Golan Heights. These are some of my traveling companions. We're just there on the dock, and we're waiting to board one of our friends' boats. It's a tourist boat, as I said. And let me kind of skip along here. We have a worship service on there, of course. One of our friends, he's a police officer, I believe, from Tuscaloosa. There's Brother Donnell Brownson and Brother Doug Reeves, who passed away last year, is there. You get to hear a sermon it's always about the Sea of Galilee ministry there. And we get to sing. Everybody sing. A little bit of dancing. Celebration. There's Doug right there. Isn't that wonderful? I imagine I believe that there are probably some others among our group there who are no longer with us. This was way back in 2007. And everybody's having just a wonderful time there on the Sea of Galilee, the sea that Jesus walked on. Just wanted to show that to you. I really loved that. And this is where Jesus was. This is where he taught. And where there he was. Not great camera work there. That's all right. Everybody's happy. And clouds can just come up just all of a sudden there. I mean, I can see just being out there, all of a sudden you're in a storm. And it can rain and just, it's unpredictable. a master of the sea, getting to sing there. And a little bit of a fishing demonstration, casting some nets. Quite different kinds of nets from what the Peter, James, and John used. But anyway, it's a whole point. A native of the land, and he's got some lead weights on there, and it's a big circular net. Throws it up over his shoulder like that. 2 or 3 different throws to get it just right. Pardon me. Casting that out. And caught a fish. Caught a fish. Now, yeah, there we go. Caught some fish. Pulling those fish out of there. Now, let me get back to our lesson here. When Jesus had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into the deep water and let down the nets for a catch." And Simon said, "Master, we've worked hard all night long and haven't caught anything, but because you say so, I will let down the nets." He's just met Jesus. He may have had some exposure to Jesus or heard his message, but this is the first thing he knows about, that he's any kind of close interaction with Jesus. And Jesus is not a fisherman. He's from Nazareth, and he's a carpenter. And he probably doesn't know anything at all about fishing, according to in Simon Peter's reckoning. I suspect a lot of the times that you and I, let me just include me in that probably times when I think I know more about stuff in my life and what I do and how I do things and how things should be done, that I know more than Jesus knows. But this is a really good start right here. And Simon Peter didn't mind just complete, absolute failure. And he'd already had a night where he didn't catch anything. He didn't even mind subjecting himself to that for a second dose of "we didn't catch anything." If you know a fisherman, did you catch anything? It is difficult for a fisherman to say, we didn't catch anything. So they hate to admit that. That's what I do. I catch fish. And we're not just talking about pleasure fishing or bringing home a mess of fish to fry. We're talking about this is how he made his living. This is how he fed his family. We didn't catch anything. Many years ago, I heard Doug Anderson preach a sermon called 6 Words That Can Change Your Life. And it was based upon Peter's response as recorded in the King James Version. He said, "Nevertheless, at thy word I will." Say those 6 words. 6 words that can change your life. We won't really fish out in the deep water, and it is in the middle of the day. We always fish either early in the morning or late at night. Never in the middle, not in the deep water. Nevertheless, in spite of I am not, I don't think I ever have been. I don't believe that Christianity is anti-intellectual. I don't think that it is mindless. I don't think it is anti-science. I don't think it is anti-reason. But I think there are a lot of times when everything we see and everything we know and every circumstance and every situation might tell us a particular course of action, or that might prescribe a certain way or approach of activity, and God is going to want you to do something completely different. And we'll have to trust him. When he's changing water into wine, he's not about to do something that you've ever seen before. what's about to happen in this story right here, Simon Peter, he's caught lots of fish, but he's never caught this many fish before, and he's never caught them this way, and he's never caught this many fish after such an abject failure. And so, again, uh, you could just say, well, according to the science of fish catching, according to the way fish are caught, and according to common sense and reason, it's foolish to go out and cast our nets. Well, that's often where science fails. There are failures and limitations to human knowledge and human experience and circumstance and situation. Sometimes we need to overcome reality. Sometimes we need to supersede reality. Sometimes we need to get beyond what ordinarily happens. Sometimes we need to pursue a course that is going to break the barriers of what can't be done. Now that's not just talking about miracles. Even in the world of science, scientists face things that can't be done every day. Technicians in the lab are told, you can't do that. That can't be done. That is not possible. How many scientists and physicists and doctors over the human history have been told that there is no hope, that can't be cured, that can't be helped, there is no cure, that's impossible. If we were strictly consigned to say, well, we've got to follow the science. Well, the science says it's impossible. The science says it can't be done. And I'm not talking about a religious or spiritual or mystical approach to this. I'm talking about what would Thomas Edison do? What would Jonas Salk do? What did Marie Curie do? What did Isaac Newton do? What did Leonardo do? It's wonderful, the wonderful history of humanity that have looked at things and said, well, this is the science. The science says you cannot travel faster than the speed of light. Well, one day we will. What goes up must come down. Well, not always. We have sent things up into space that'll never come down anywhere. There is no up out there, no down. And so, no, I'm not saying that education or knowledge or wisdom or experience or science is against spirituality. I'm just saying, no, all of that is there to be broken through and to be raised up and to be pushed higher. Jesus, the science, says it's a waste of time. You're being anti-scientific. When they had done so, they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to break. So they signaled to their partners in the other boat to come and help them, and they came and filled both boats so that they began to sink. There are many times in your life and in mine we're going to be like the fisherman who comes in and says, tell your wife, well, did you catch anything? No, we didn't catch, well, we fished all night. We didn't catch anything. Not anything? No, we didn't catch anything. We must not lose heart or lose hope when we face failure or difficulty or hardship. My daughter was teaching our granddaughters this Christmas. Now, if you go to someone's house and they present to you a nice Christmas present and you've already got two of those at home, Don't say, I've already got two of those. My dad used to say, what do I need with this? I've already have one of these, or I don't need one of these. I don't want one of these. What if Peter had said, oh, well, Lord, we fished all night last night. We've already caught our quota. We man, we fished and we were so successful. And now what made this important, and I think was probably divinely orchestrated, is it was a night of failure and defeat and in discouragement that laid the foundation for this wonderful catch of fish. By the way, there's lots of things that could make your boat sink that are not necessarily a bad thing. So that's another thing altogether. I'm not going to start on that. Simon Peter saw this. He fell at Jesus' knees and said, go away from me, Lord. I'm a sinful man. For he and all his companions were astonished at the catch of fish that they had taken. When you impress fishermen with how much fish you caught, then that's something. And so were James and John, sons of Zebedee, Simon's partners. Then Jesus said to Simon, don't be afraid. From now on you will fish for people. So they pulled their boats up on shore and left everything and followed him. Don't be afraid. From now on you will fish for people. You know, even before I became a Christian and before I was even attending church, I learned the song from Miss Howard Smallwood from the King James version of this. He says, fear not, from henceforth thou shalt catch men. And then the other gospel writer says this, I will make you fishers of men, fishers of men, fishers of men. I will make you fishers of men if you follow me. If you follow me. If you follow me. I will make you fishers of men if you follow me. I even know the motions of that. Catching people for Jesus. Catching them. Now, catching fish is not a good thing for the fish. You have to take that analogy only as far as it was intended to go. Catching people is a good thing for people. Pulling them out of what they're in. For fish, it's not a rescue. But for people, it is. Jesus said, you've spent your whole life catching fish. He says, you're going to spend the rest of your life reaching out to people and say, come to Jesus. Come to Jesus. All right. God bless you all. There's a lot more to chapter 5. Jesus calls the rest of his disciples. He's calling Simon, James, and John here. Later on, Matthew and others. His 12 apostles are gathered. It's an important chapter. But that's all we have time for today. God bless you all. I hope that you can tune in at 11 o'clock for our 11 o'clock worship hour. It'll probably be presented to you in a similar fashion. Please join us if you can. God bless you all. Look forward to seeing you soon, but under safe circumstances and conditions.